Welcome. This is Uncommon Sense, a podcast presented by the Heshi CPA Knowledge Center. The center is an initiative of the CPA Education Foundation, the charitable arm of the Chartered Professional Accountant profession in Alberta. Our episodes feature conversations with Alberta CPAs sharing their insights on a wide range of timely topics. Alberta CPAs work in every part of the economy and volunteer their time and expertise in virtually every community in Alberta. With each episode, we bring you voices and perspectives that reflect the diverse knowledge and contributions that CPAs bring to our province. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Uncommon Sense. I'm Jessica DeGroot with the CPA Education Foundation, and on this episode, we're going to be talking about planning for retirement. But you won't be hearing much about RRSPs, investments, pensions, or other financial tools that usually get discussed when the conversation is about retirement. Of course, the financial aspects of retirement planning are obviously very important. However, focusing on only the financial considerations often means that non-financial components of retirement planning can get overlooked. That's where today's guest comes in. Terry Olexyn CPA CMA is a longtime professional accountant who worked for many years in industry. Terry is also a certified retirement coach and a certified executive life coach who now combines his background as a CPA with his training and coaching to offer expert advice regarding the non-financial aspects of retirement planning. Based in Calgary, Terry is the founder of PEAK Retirement Solutions Ltd, a company focusing on supporting individuals through the retirement planning process. As a counselor, advisor, speaker, and author, Terry has built a reputation for his unique and thoughtful approach to retirement planning. As most of us know, preparing for retirement can be complex and multifaceted. Terry is here to guide us through some of the considerations for anyone to keep in mind when they begin mapping out their approach to retirement planning. Thank you so much for being here today, Terry.
Well, it's my pleasure, Jessica. Thank you very much for having me.
So we start all of our episodes by asking our guests to share a piece of uncommon sense with us. That's usually some words of wisdom or a little life hack that the guests have picked up over the course of their lives. I have a feeling that on this episode, we'll hear a lot of uncommon sense, but nonetheless, do you have some little life lessons to open our episode with?
Well, absolutely, Jessica. So I find that just so many people, when they're preparing for their retirements, they just think about what they're going to gain when they leave their employer, not what they're going to lose. And, I'll tell you from experience is our jobs give us so much more than a paycheck. And we take it for granted sometimes. So let me give you an example. For instance, your social connection. I mean, the minute you walk in the doors of the office, you automatically have social connection. And that just goes away when you leave the office. And that leaves a lot of people really struggling in their retirement transition.
Mm-hmm. I hear a lot about that. I think a lot of people are afraid to retire for that reason, and it may have nothing to do with finances. It might be that social connection, or they fear that they're going to be bored or unfulfilled or things like that.
Yeah, absolutely, Jessica. I mean, that is, very common. But the reality is this, too, is so many people just see retirement as that magic pill, and they really don't realize what they're losing until they actually get into retirement. And then they start struggling with that, with that transition.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks for that, Terry. Before we begin discussing retirement planning specifically, maybe you could provide a brief overview of your professional career and how it led to you creating a business that provides retirement planning services.
Yeah, certainly. So I started out in banking right out of school, spent about 7 years in banking. Then I transitioned into the energy industry where I worked various roles in accounting and finance. And then I achieved my CMA designation in 2003, and after that I pursued a master's degree from the U of A. I retired from my primary career in June of 2023 after 35 years in the energy industry. And that's when I really became, about 4 years before I retired, I became very fascinated with my own retirement planning. And what I discovered was that there's just so much more than just finances. So I saw this as a great business opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really interesting. How did you find the transition from full-time employee to a business owner and entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I can certainly appreciate entrepreneurs a lot more today than when I was working full time. I mean, you just have to be everything, and it's hard to be expert at marketing and product development and all that stuff. So it's a very difficult transition, but the more you do it, the better you get at it.
Yeah, you definitely have to juggle a lot of hats. So your company, PEAK Retirement Solutions, is focused solely on the non-financial components of retirement planning. Why did you choose to build your company with that focus specifically?
Well, it all started out, Jessica, where a lot of my friends and colleagues they retired ahead of me, and I was seeing these people that were, we've been led to believe that retirement is just that end all be all. And yet I found so many people were struggling, and I couldn't understand it because, the individuals I'm talking about, it wasn't about finances. They had significant retirement funds. So it got me thinking, what is it? And I actually got scared for my own retirement because, it just seems so, when you think about it, it just seemed like it's hard to pity somebody who is not doing well in retirement, because you look at it and you say, well, you don't have any deadlines, you don't have any obligations, commitments, you can create whatever you want to create, but yet you're struggling. Mm-hmm. So that's what really led to doing a lot of research on my own retirement. I started planning for my retirement probably about 4 years before I actually retired. And what I found and what I discovered was there's just so much more to retirement planning than just finances. And so when I realized this, I realized the importance and how relevant it was to a seamless transition. I thought, I got to get this message out, because there's nothing worse than seeing somebody struggle in their retirement transition. These should be some of the best years of your life, not some of the worst.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially if you're fortunate enough to be able to retire, be financially comfortable, and still have your health so you can enjoy that part of your life.
That's exactly it, Jessica. Yeah.
So what types of support does PEAK Retirement Solutions offer its clients? Can you give us a little bit of an overview there?
Yeah, certainly. So, primarily coaching services. So, my goal is to inform, inspire, and implement. And what I mean by that is, inform people about the non-financial elements of that are so important and critical to a meaningful and fulfilling retirement. And then I want to inspire people to take advantage of this great opportunity that they have before them. And then with the information that I educate them on, it's take that information and incorporate it into a financial plan, implement.
Mm-hmm. So would you work with a financial planner, or do you because the services that you offer are different, right?
Yeah, they're very different. And I do partner up with some wealth managers, but we don't step on each other's toes. I mean, they're expert in the financial world, mm-hmm. and I'm the expert in the non-financial. So it's very complementary to each other's services.
Yeah, absolutely. So how did you prepare and train to specialize in this kind of work?
Well, it's been probably hundreds, if not 1,000 hours in just my own research. But while doing that, I stumbled across this organization out of the U.S. that was founded by a gentleman by the name of Robert Laura. And it's the Retirement Coaches Association. So as I was doing my own research for my own retirement, I thought, well, heck, there's just so much great information that comes out of the RCA that I decided to enroll in their program to become a certified professional retirement coach. And what I'll tell you is at that point, I'd had absolutely no intentions of starting up a business. It was more for my own knowledge and preparation. But what I what I found is Bob's program, it just has so much content that would have taken me another 1,000 hours to develop on my own. So lots of tools and strategies to help retirees. So I became very, very fascinated, with this area. I started attending a lot of conferences with experts in this field like Chip Conley, Robert Laura, Ken Dykewald, Mike Drack. And then I reached out to several of these individuals and became connected and learned a lot from them as experts in the field.
That's wonderful. I feel like a lot of great businesses form kind of in that way. Like you have a personal interest in something and you kind of, get a little bit obsessed with it and then realize what a need there is in the market for something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. It really did happen organically.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's dig into the topic of retirement planning and the non-financial considerations that go with it. I understand that you offer kind of 4 main services as a big part of the work that you do. So I just want to kind of ask you about each of those 4 services and the thinking that underpins them. And you call the first service Cultivating Self-Awareness. So how does that concept fit into retirement planning?
Yeah, so it's really about, once again, just making people aware that there's just so much more about retirement than just finances. And I really emphasize to people that you have to pay attention to the non-financial elements for a successful retirement transition. Otherwise, you're going to struggle. So it's really about, just so many people, when you think about it, Jessica, I mentioned this earlier, they just don't know that they need these services until they get into retirement. They don't really understand because when you think about the commercials that we see out there and all of the literature that's on the internet, it's all about finances. So, it's very difficult to tell somebody or explain to somebody that they could, and not everybody does, but you could struggle if you don't plan for these non-financial elements. So I really emphasize the importance of paying attention and incorporating these into your own research and planning for retirement.
Mm-hmm. And do you find, I'm sure this is true, that, some people would maybe struggle in that area a little bit more than others?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I don't want to paint a picture that, that everybody goes into retirement and fails at the transition, because that's not the case at all. In fact, there's a lot of people that transition just perfectly, but a lot of those people that do transition perfectly, they're already aware that there's more to it than just finances, and they've done a much better job of preparing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. Because if I think of, obviously I'm in my 30s, so retirement is quite a ways away. But, the stage that I'm at now, I'm so busy with my kids, and we're very focused on just kind of planning for that financial aspect. But I feel like I will have a very easy time retiring because I have a lot of hobbies. And my husband, on the other hand, he just did kind of like a personality test through his work. Mm-hmm. And the person told him, you should be prepared that you will not do well as a retired person. So we're very different in that way, I think.
It's really interesting, Jessica, and if you don't mind, I'll just share a quick personal story. I believe that my transition was going to be very easy for the very reasons that you just described. I had lots of hobbies. I had a strong social network outside of work. And the reality was, sometimes our workplace identity is so strong that even if you have all of that, it still makes for a very difficult transition. And you really don't know that until you actually hit retirement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. And we spend so much of our lives working that it is a pretty drastic change.
It really is.
Okay, so the next service on your list is education on often overlooked non-financial aspects of retirement. So what does that service entail?
Yeah, so what we do is we really dive deep into these non-financial elements. So, I take my clients through a number of exercises and just educate them on the importance of the non-financial elements, but more importantly, the consequences of not planning for them. It could lead to and this is where people really struggle, is, they really enjoy that, the retirement honeymoon period that could last anywhere between, 6 months to 2 years. And that means, it's just absolute bliss. You don't have to wake up in the morning and to alarm clock. You have no commitments, no obligations. You're on permanent vacation. But the reality, that gets old, and people wake up one day and they find themselves wondering or feeling like something's missing, and they're feeling a void. And the worst thing that can happen in that scenario is that they can squander away those first couple of years of retirement that are so valuable, because you're in your best health and you've got the most energy to knock things off. So my goal on this, to educate, when we talk about education, is just to make them aware of the consequences of not incorporating the non-financial elements into their retirement plan.
Mm-hmm. And after that honeymoon period is probably when a lot of people start looking at maybe doing some consulting work or getting something part-time to kind of fill that void a little bit.
That's exactly right. I mean, encore, we call those encore careers, and a lot of people do find themselves, go either, and some of them actually go back to their original careers, because they just, aren't satisfied. They're not fulfilled in retirement. So
yeah. Okay, so next comes the service that you call developing a comprehensive plan that aligns with the client's core values. So how do one's core values relate to a good retirement plan?
Yeah, core values, in my opinion, Jessica, are so critical. They're everything. I mean, if we think about our core values, what matters most of us, they really become our compass. They become our guide to answering a lot of questions. Answering questions around, how do I want to spend my time? Who do I want to spend my time with? And what do I want to do? And if those activities that you choose and the people you want to spend time with are aligned with your core values, it's going to bring a whole lot more meaning to your retirement than just happening or just by accident, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. So the fourth service area that you talked about is bridging the gap between health span and lifespan. What is health span, and how does that gap get bridged?
That's a great question, Jessica. Health span is just how long we live in good health. Mm-hmm. And age span is it's really simple. It's just chronological age. It's how long we've been on this planet. And how we bridge that gap, and our whole goal is to just narrow that gap between the age span and the health span. And it's just about healthy lifestyle choices and making people aware about what we do today can really impact the quality of our retirement. So when we talk about healthy habits, it's incorporate, exercise into your everyday routine, your eating habits. What are there? Your sleep habits. It's staying connected socially. That is just so important to a good retirement. So it's these things that can really narrow that gap between age span and health span. And it's not about living longer. It's just about living better.
Yeah. I feel like most of us don't want to live a long life being unhealthy. So that is so important. And, when it comes to our physical body and our mind as well, I think it's kind of like a use it or lose it type situation.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And I think we all have examples of people that have taken really good care of their bodies and people that have been not so kind. And when you think about where they end up, they could both be, 70 years old, but they're vastly different in terms of that biological age and how good they feel and how much they can do and how energetic they are. So it's so important that we look after ourselves physically, mentally, and emotionally.
Mm-hmm. And so you probably get asked this question a lot, but it's worth asking for our listeners. What is the quote unquote right age for retirement? Is age 65 still kind of the magic number to shoot for?
It's a very good question, and what I'm going to say to you, Jessica, is it's different for everybody. I mean, the average age of retirement in Canada is still 65 years old.
Okay.
But there's so much variability on either side of that. We see people working in their, well into their 70s, and we also see people working, retiring in their 50s. Think about the Freedom 55. How many people, use that as a target? That commercial was very powerful, and I think that became, the goal for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. But what I'm going to say is, why do we have to retire so early? we've got this, notion in our head that, it's it's almost a badge of honor that, we retired at the age of 52 or 50, when in fact, I think that it's absolutely remarkable when I see people still working into, well into their 70s, not because they have to, but because they just found a passion that they just don't want to leave. So I guess to answer your question, retirement age, it's personal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. And I think that, if you have something that you're passionate about and that you love, it's probably really beneficial for your mental and emotional health to keep working as long as you feel like you want to.
It really is. And again, if you don't mind, I'd like to just share a quick personal story. I was selling a vehicle, and this 30-year-old engineer was test driving. I was driving with him, and he found out what I did. And he says, "Terry, have you ever heard of the FIRE theory?" And I said, "No, tell me more." Well, FIRE theory is financial independence, retire early. I'm sure you've heard of it. The goal is to just, it's to save money and retire at the age of 40. And, I thought, I turned to the young man, I said, Eddie, I said, that's all great and, best of luck to you, but why are you so focused on retirement at the age of 30? Why aren't you focused on, finding something that you love and never want to leave?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I like that. I have heard about that, and I mean, it would be very hard because these people live so frugally to save, almost every penny that they earn so that they can retire early. But then it's like, well, then what are you going to do?
Right. What are you going to do? And I think that's, what that says to me is that retirement really is highly misunderstood. There's just so much permanent vacation. We're wired to achieve. A permanent vacation from the age of 40 to the age of 90, I can't imagine that in my future, that's for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, maybe 40 is a little too early to retire, but when should a person start planning their retirement?
Well, Jessica, I mean, I think at any time, but, probably the ultimate period is probably 0 to 10 years from retirement.
Okay.
And understand that things are going to change quite a bit. I mean, if you start planning it, 10 years out, you're going to probably, have a lot of tweaks and changes along the way. But anywhere from, like I say, 0 to 10 years seems to work really well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like any more than that. I mean, for me, being in my 30s and my kids are very young still, I can't even imagine what my life will be like, in 30 years because it's going to be drastically different. Don't know where I'm going to live, where my kids were going to live. Like, there's just so much unknown. It would be impossible to start planning for the non-financial aspects of retirement at, too early, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The one thing, though, I can tell you that you can start today, and it's, don't wait until 0 to 10 years, and that's, adopt healthy habits.
Yeah. And
that's going to prepare you really nicely for, for your retirement years.
Yeah, for sure. We should all be focusing on that. I think, from a very young age, I think it's important. And I feel like now, the younger generations are more health conscious than perhaps they've ever been because we know so much more now. And so I feel I hear a lot about it, and I think it's a lot more at the forefront of everybody's lives than maybe it once was.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, retirees are much more healthier than, say, 3 or 4 decades ago. There's this longevity wave. People are living longer. It's I think if you look at the average life expectancy today, I mean it's approaching 80 years old, and so you're absolutely right. I mean health and wellness is in the forefront in a lot of people's minds.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of interesting research too. I'm sure you've heard about the blue zones and not just, the things that these people eat, but the aspects of their lifestyle and culture that go into their longevity. And you talked a little bit about, emotional health and mental health too. So that very much is a proponent of your health span and lifespan.
Absolutely. And Jessica, I can't tell you how much I love the blue zones. The Dan Buettner just nailed it with that because, again, do we all want to be centurions or are we all going to be there? No, but, just everything that he says, in those episodes is just so critical to great living.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
And especially social connection. I mean, that's something that a lot of people just underestimate, the power of social connection. There's studies out there that says loneliness actually kills more people than smoking and obesity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very interesting. So for those of you that don't know, the blue zones, you can Google it, but it's these areas in the world where they have the most people to live to 100 or more than any other area. So it's very interesting to see the studies that come out of it and what these people, how they live and the practices that they have to live such a long and healthy life. So what do you think is the biggest surprise that people often discover about retirement once they've retired?
Yeah, I think it's really about just wondering why retirement isn't feeling like they thought it would. You know, they go through that honeymoon period, as I mentioned earlier, and, as I say, it's bliss. I mean, the first, several months when you just don't have any commitments, obligations, and, let's face it, by the time we retire, a lot of us are tired, we're burnt out. And so that first several months, it's incredible, but at some point, a lot of retirees wake up and say, is this it? Is this what it's all about? And again, it just kind of puts them into that bit of a funk, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm. And what do you find are the non-financial rewards that you gain personally from the work that you do?
For me, it's really about just helping others and preparing them for this life journey that with proper preparation can be so good. I want them to avoid squandering those first couple years of their retirement that are so critical. As I mentioned, they're in their best health. They've got their most energy. It's time to go out there and explore rather than going out there and trying to figure out your retirement once you're retired. So if I can influence that in any way, my mission is accomplished.
Mm-hmm. And one final question for you, Terry. Where can people go to find out more about PEAK Retirement Solutions? Do you have a website or social media accounts that people can visit?
I do. So my website is peakretirementsolutions.ca. And if you're approaching retirement, there's a wealth of information on there to help you prepare for your own retirement. And I'd encourage you to poke around. And another place is LinkedIn. I've got a personal LinkedIn account that I do most of my business work out of. So Terry Olexyn, just go ahead and look me up on LinkedIn and feel free to send me a message.
Wonderful. Well, thanks for that, Terry. Our discussion has been a real eye-opener for me. So thank you so much for sharing your insights, wisdom, and experiences with our audience. Retirement is a huge step for anyone, and hearing your thoughtful ideas and approaches to it is tremendously helpful. So thank you again for taking the time to be here today.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Jessica. It's been a pleasure.
The Uncommon Sense podcast is presented by the CPA Education Foundation and funded by the Heshie CPA Knowledge Center. The Knowledge Center was created through a generous donation by the late Brian Heshie. Brian was a distinguished Albertan, business leader, CPA, educator, and community builder. His generosity and commitment to education underpinned his good works across Alberta throughout his lifetime. The opinions expressed on Uncommon Sense do not necessarily reflect the views of the CPA Education Foundation. We would like to acknowledge that CPA Education Foundation offices are situated on the traditional Treaty 6 and Treaty 7 territories and Métis Nation homeland. The Foundation acknowledges that we reside on traditional and ancestral territories of many Indigenous, First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. Their histories and culture influence our community to this day. The Foundation is committed to helping build a province where Indigenous people and their voices and experiences are heard, valued, respected, and celebrated. Technical and recording services for this podcast provided by Wolf Willow Studios in Edmonton. If you enjoyed this podcast, please be sure to like, subscribe, and tell your friends about us. If you have any comments about the podcast, write to us at cpaef@cpaalberta.ca. To learn more about the CPA Education Foundation and the Heshie CPA Knowledge Center, visit cpaalberta.ca healthspan.com/foundation. You can also follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. Just search for the CPA Education Foundation.